Cheating doesn't strike like lightning. Asterisk, it doesn't arrive with thunder or fanfare. It creeps in slow, quiet, suffocating like smoke through a cracked window. By the time you realize something's wrong, it's already in your lungs. It's already changing the way you breathe. What no one tells you is this. Asterisk, when a woman cheats, she rarely does it cleanly. Asterisk, she doesn't erase herself from your life overnight. She leaves fingerprints on your routine, your peace of mind, your gut, instinct. Most men see them. Most men explain them away. But you saw it. You just didn't want it to be true. This isn't about paranoia. It's about patterns, subtle shifts that stoic, observant men pick up long before there's proof. If you've ever felt that dull ache, that pressure in your chest that whispers, asterisk, she's slipping away. Asterisk, this is for you. ###. Sign number 1, she disconnects but keeps smiling. She doesn't leave. That's the confusing part. She stays. She lingers. You see her every day. She still says good morning, but doesn't look up from her phone. You ask how she's doing, and hear the same response every time. I'm fine. Not a truth. A reflex. There's a shift in her presence. She's physically there, but emotionally gone. That spark she used to have when she looked at you. It's dimmed. The laughter you once shared feels rehearsed now like a rerun. You crack a joke, and she smiles. But not with her eyes, not with her body, not with that warmth that used to light up when you entered the room. Now, it's the kind of smile you give a stranger in an elevator, polite, empty, fleeting. She says she's tired. That work is stressful, that she needs space, but those aren't explanations. They're deflections, they're time-buying tactics. Not bridges back to you, and deep down, you know it. Not because you're being emotional, but because you're observant. A stoic man doesn't panic. He doesn't accuse. He just watches. He listens, not just to what's being said, but to what's missing. And what's missing? Joy. Spontaneity. Connection. She's already begun detaching. Not in the dramatic way, no slam doors. No suitcase by the bed, but in the quiet way. The way that turns affection into obligation. The way that makes love feel like a checklist item. Because when a woman starts spending her emotional currency elsewhere, she has to ration what's left for you. What you get. Just enough. Just enough to keep things looking normal. Just enough to keep you from pressing too hard. Just enough to prevent you from walking away. First, but you're not crazy. You're not insecure. You're not insecure. You're not imagining things. You're witnessing the corrosion of intimacy, and if you don't say anything, if you choose silence, you won't just lose her, you'll start losing yourself. Not from her life, but from your own sense of worth. That's how emotional betrayal begins, not with lies, but with absence disguised as presence. Absolutely. Here is a richer, more detailed version of your piece, grounded in realism and psychological insight. The language remains poetic and reflective, but it digs deeper into the emotional erosion and silent transformations that signal betrayal. The slow death of truth. Sign number 2. She starts hiding in plain sight. It doesn't begin with shouting, no slamming doors, no dramatic exits. It begins with silence, strategic, selective, imprecise. You used to know everything. The minor grievances at work, the random thoughts she had in the shower, the weird dream she couldn't shake, the lunch she barely touched. Now, those details are missing. Not because they stopped happening, but because they're no longer shared. Her life starts to fracture into compartments, and slowly, almost imperceptibly. You're no longer invited into all of them. She still talks, but only when it's convenient, only when the content is safe, only when it upholds the image she wants you to see. That's the first shift. Selective transparency. It's not silent, curated noise. She gives you just enough to seem open, but not enough to be vulnerable. Then comes the second shift, the phone. It used to be just another object in the room, left on the kitchen counter, forgotten on the couch, screen up, wide open. Now, it's always in her hand. Always face down. Notifications silenced. She tilts the screen away when she types out of the room to reply, and you never asked for her password. You never accused her of anything, yet somehow, she's already defending herself against a war you haven't declared. Ask about it, and she calls you paranoid. Insecure. Controlling. But here's what a grounded, stoic man understands. Truth doesn't fear observation. Love that is real doesn't need a vault. If peace matters to someone, they don't plant seeds of suspicion and then blame you for the garden. This isn't about control, it's about contrast. Contrast between who she was and who she is becoming. She was once open, expressive, transparent. Now she's guarded, evasive, and careful with details. That's not evolution, that's concealment. And concealment always has a reason. Cheating doesn't begin with a kiss, it begins with the erosion of access. 1. Withheld detail. One story with missing pieces. One emotional locked door in a house you once had keys to. The worst part, she wants you to doubt yourself, not her. Because as long as you blame your instincts, she never has to explain her behavior. But a stoic man doesn't need a confession. He doesn't need dramatic evidence. He just needs a pattern. When someone starts living two lives, you're not imagining it, you're just the one who's been excluded from the second one. ###. Sign number 3. Her body stays but her intimacy doesn't. You still share a bed, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. The warmth is gone. The rhythm is off. There's something invisible between you now. A space, a silence, a subtle rejection. Some nights she turns away without a word. Other nights she reaches for you, but it feels different, rushed, overacted, like she's trying to prove something or hide something. You're left wondering, which is worse? The nights when there's nothing, or the nights when there's too much, but none of it feels like it's meant for you. Here's the truth most men avoid. When a woman is cheating emotionally, physically, spiritually, her intimacy always changes. Sometimes it disappears, sometimes it mutates, but it never stays the same. Because real intimacy isn't about how often you touch, it's about how present you are when you do. And when that presence is no longer rooted in love, you'll feel it in your bones, in your gut, in the quiet after. It will feel like kissing a ghost, touching someone who isn't really there. Like your body is being borrowed, not cherished. And when you bring it up, she says you're imagining things, you're being too sensitive, you're overthinking, she's just tired. But you're not imagining it, you're paying attention, because sex, when real, is a language, and right now, that language has changed. It's not fluent, it's not native. It's artificial. And here's the Stoic truth. A woman cannot give you her body, while her soul belongs somewhere else. The longer you pretend it's still the same, the more you betray your own intuition, not to protect the relationship, but to protect her comfort. But a man grounded in reason doesn't distort himself to avoid discomfort. He doesn't deny the signs, he respects them, he studies them, and most importantly, he acts. Because when the fire goes out, you don't blame the smoke, you check if someone else already lit a match. Sign number 4. She starts arguments that don't make sense at first. They seem like little things. You forgot to text back quickly now, she says you don't care. You left a dish in the sink now, you never listen. You gave a calm, neutral answer, but suddenly, your tone is a problem, and you start doing what many men do. You apologize, even when you don't understand what you're apologizing for. You replay conversations like a movie on loop, searching for the scene where it all went wrong. You scan your behavior for anything that might explain the friction. But what you're dealing with isn't logic, it's displacement. She's not really upset about the dish, the text, or the tone. She's at war with her own guilt, and you're the battlefield she's chosen. See, when a woman steps beyond the emotional boundary or is inching closer to it, she needs a justification. And conflict is the easiest way to rewrite the story. Because if you are cold, if you are distant, if you are inattentive, then what she's doing isn't betrayal, it's escape, not infidelity-self-preservation. And here's where it turns insidious. She convinces herself first, then she works on convincing you. Before long, you're walking on eggshells in a house you helped build. You start monitoring your every word, second-guessing your tone, overthinking your replies. You begin shrinking into the version of yourself she needs to believe, in the flawed, emotionally unavailable villain in her redemption arc. But a Stoic man sees through the performance. He knows conflict, in this case, isn't about connection. It's about camouflage. She's not starting fights to fix things, she's starting them to create distance. Because when guilt gets loud, it tries to rewrite the narrative. And if she can make you the reason she's withdrawing, then she doesn't have to face the truth of her own betrayal. Here's the reality. You don't argue with someone who has already decided to leave. You don't beg for clarity from someone who's trying to blur the lines. You observe, you detach, you protect your peace. Because when conflict becomes a smokescreen for disloyalty, you don't win the argument, you win by walking away from the game. Sign number 5. Her future no longer includes you. This one doesn't arrive with a crash. It doesn't explode. It whispers, no more we, no more our, just subtle edits to the life she once imagined with you. She used to say, when we get a place together. Now it's I've been thinking about moving. She used to talk in shared horizons, trips, goals, building something together. Now it's I want to travel. For clarity, I've been focusing on my healing. I just need space to figure things out. Notice the shift. It's not that she's moving forward, it's that she's leaving you out of the direction. You didn't do anything wrong, but she's already halfway out the door. First, emotionally, then mentally, eventually physically. She's not asking you to leave, she's just making sure you stop feeling at home. She doesn't start a fight. She just stops planning a future, stops dreaming out loud, stops including your name in her hopes. And when you ask about it, she says you're being dramatic. Insecure. Overreacting. But a Stoic man doesn't just listen to words. He listens to subtraction. Because people don't fantasize about leaving unless a part of them already has. And every time she said, I just need time? It wasn't a request. It was a countdown, while you stayed hoping for warmth. She was adjusting to the cold. That's why her hugs feel mechanical. That's why she avoids your eyes. That's why your presence feels like an obligation, a connection. And the final blow. She's not confused. She's rehearsing. She's already removed you from her future. She's just waiting for the courage, or the excuse, to remove herself from your present. You'll still be there, holding on to a relationship that only exists in memory, haunting a home that no longer feels like it's yours. But a man of grounding, a man of clarity, he doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, and he doesn't sit in spaces where he's being emotionally evicted, because dignity isn't loud. It walks away silently, while the other person still believes they're in control. Let's make one thing clear. Cheating doesn't begin in a hotel room. It doesn't begin in the backseat of someone else's car. It begins in the silence, in the distancing, in the laughter that doesn't quite land. In the I'm fine that doesn't feel fine at all. It begins when affection becomes measured, rationed, conditional, when you start convincing yourself that the scraps you're getting are enough. A woman doesn't betray you the moment she's with another man. She betrays you the moment she disconnects and decides not to come back. The signs were always there. You just kept calling them phases, but they were patterns. And a Stoic man, he doesn't chase ghosts. He doesn't argue with withdrawn energy. He doesn't beg to be fed from a table where he's no longer being served. Because the moment you abandon your self-respect to keep someone close, you've already lost more than a relationship. You've lost yourself. So here's the truth. If she had to betray you to find herself, she was never yours to begin with. If this cleared the fog you've been pretending isn't there, comment clarity, because clarity isn't Pinit's freedom. If you're done second-guessing your gut, done rewriting your instincts as insecurity, subscribe. Because around here we don't chase shadows, we sharpen minds, and we never fear the truth.